pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda for this evening. Welcome numerous visitors.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 23rd minutes.
Second by Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Do we have a representative from Netwater?
I just promoted the analyst, so yeah, sort of give them a second, hopefully they'll. Please.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Is it our turn to speak?
Yes.
Yes.
You're up.
Thank you. I'll take the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Bernardo. I'm a project developer at Cypress Creek Renewables, and I will be leading the development of the proposed meltwater solar project over the next several months. I believe our attorney, Doug Warden, is also on the line, and he's requesting to be admitted onto the call.
We will put him on.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, and he's online as well. Can you hear us, sir?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Is it okay if I just kick things off real quick?
You talked to your client about that.
Okay, I think it is. We've discussed in advance. So my name is Doug Warden, and I'm outside counsel to Meltwater Solar. I'm a partner with the law firm of Snyder and Snyder. And you may recall me from my involvement with helping to secure the underlying special use permit and site plan approvals for this 5 megawatt solar farm located at 6101 Kirkville Road North. This project was approved on May 23rd, 2022. And as happens with every such project, my client conducted the required post-approval field visit with the incumbent utility. The incumbent utility is the utility whose electrical grid you're going to connect to, and which will then distribute your electricity to the customer base. And that is National Grid in this case here, as I'm sure you know. And as is the case in many such post-approval field visits, National Grid had some very small required field modifications to the point of interconnection. They have the final say, because it's their underlying grid, into the fine particulars and logistics of how we connect to their grid. And so they had some proposed or required modifications that are de minimis alterations to the location of the poles at the point of interconnect. These modifications are only going to minimize and decrease the visibility of the facility. In fact, one of the poles nearest to the roadway is going to be moved 25 feet back. We're not adding any more poles, and I will not discuss more because we have here a very capable project developer named Bernardo Urdaneta, who is prepared to tell you the exact details of which pole is moving where and why. Bernardo, would you like to take it from here?
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, members of the Planning Board, for the opportunity to present these proposed modifications. To make it easier for everyone to visualize the nature of the changes, I would like to share my screen and this diagram depicting the proposed changes by National Grid and by our project. As Doug mentioned, National Grid asked us to move one electric pole in particular, which is this pole located here. It's the utility recloser pole. and they ask that we move it outside. Let me expand my. They ask that we move it outside of the right-of-way of the town where it was previously located on this diagram. So we've moved it 25 feet to the east. So it's now outside of the town right-of-way. The rationale they provided to us is that this would ensure that the pole doesn't interfere with any drainage or civil work around the access road entrance. So we've moved the pole, and we're proposing to move the pole 25 feet to the east. And as a result, the remaining 5 poles also need to be shifted so we maintain an equidistance among the 6 poles in total. So now that distance has changed from 50 to 40 feet. All the poles remain within the proposed limits of disturbance area, and we estimate that it will decrease the visibility of the electric pole lineup. And that's the extent of the proposed changes to the site plan.
We've got a few questions for you. One of my concerns is you're reducing the space between the poles. And what I've done is I've distributed to our board another site where there were 6 poles. I believe you have 7 poles on your design, but they look so close in proximity to each other that they actually, in my humble opinion, are an eyesore. A question was asked of the person who presented this when we were working on it back in May. Why aren't you going underground? Why aren't they not being installed underground? We got back a real quick answer that it's expensive. I'm concerned about that, and I want to know why is it expensive, and why are there not more efforts to go underground?
Yeah, to the extent of my knowledge, I'm not an engineer, so I'll qualify my response by that. National Grid requires that some of the poles, at least, are located above ground for maintenance purposes. Whether in my understanding is that it is expensive, we would need to build a pad to put the cables underground. And so normally our standard practice is that everything is underground, all the cables inside the fence area, they're all underground, and just on the electric pole lineup, on the point of interconnection, the standard is that they are above ground.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the point of interconnection is the most visible spot.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
The point of interconnection is the most visible spot.
If I may add, it is the most visible spot. We are moving one of the most visible poles 25 feet away from the road, so that's good. And then really the only alteration is, and please, Bernardo, correct me if I'm wrong, we're moving the distance that each pole is apart. Each pole is presently proposed to be 50 feet apart. We're only proposing to reduce that to 40 feet in between each of the poles that are affected here. So it's a small percentage of the existing distance that each of these poles are apart.
Bernardo, you've taken such great pains to make this solar array as beautiful as it can be. And then you've left these 5 dead trees, and that's exactly what they look like, but you're going to be there for the next 30 years, and we're going to have to look at them when you're going on to your next project. I'm with Valerie on this one. I think we should bury all of those. You're going to have to take the poles down to move them, right? So you're going to have to go through that whole process of removing and replacing. While you're at it, why don't you just dig a trench, put all the stuff underground. We have underground wiring in Manlius all over the place. It's never has to be serviced. And I don't think that that's a good answer, whether that it's too expensive or they need to service it. There's no service required. I live in a neighborhood 60 years. There's never been electrical service for the underground homes, the homes underground that have electrical service underground. None.
If I could add one quick thing and then hand it over to Bernardo. I don't think that these poles have been constructed yet. So that's one point. And Bernardo, I think, may have been alluding to the fact that this is this is a national grid requirement, which we don't have any control over, because they are kind of the boss of how we connect to the underlying grid. So even if we would like to, I don't know that we have full ability to do so pursuant to our interconnection agreements with National Grid. Bernardo, is that accurate?
Could you get us some documentation to that effect? Something from National Grid that says they have to be above ground, not underground?
They can't
Anything?
do a pad mount.
Yeah, I can inquire with the utility about that. I know some of the poles do need to be above ground. Some of the poles will be owned by the company, by the project company. Some will still be owned by National Grid. My understanding is that the ones that are owned by National Grid, those certainly have to remain above ground. And I will inquire about the others, see if there are any restrictions. Otherwise, I think that's something that we could consider if it's very important to the planning board.
Well, I'd like to see some documentation that all the poles have to be above ground. I mean, if National Grid owns some, you're saying that they have to be above ground. I'd like to see some documentation stating that, and also that you're not allowed to put your poles underground. Because I agree with what's been said here earlier. It'd be better if they could all be underground.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
the other thing is right along the access road where trees will be cleared, correct?
There will be
There's a
some
nice-
trees, yes.
Yeah, there's a nice natural buffer right now, but if these are at the access road, I assume you're gonna be cutting down trees to get the access road in.
That's correct. Yeah, there's some tree clearing areas as been approved in the site plan right by the access road and point of interconnection, and then there's another area inside the project fence. Altogether, I believe, yeah, it's an 1.5 acres of tree clearing.
Okay. Then if you are willing to do that, to get a hold of National Grid and find out exactly what the requirements are so that we have a better understanding. We'd like to do that because aesthetically, it's not attractive seeing so many poles so close together. You know, if they were every 100 foot or 150 foot apart, that would be different. And I understand this is your connectability, but I'd really like to see something showing that it has to be underground, because I've seen other projects where they are underground, the connectivity point. Okay,
Mr. Chair, we're glad to explore that. We'll get, we want, this is not something that we had, forewarning of or, in advance, your concern. So we want to make sure that we are giving you accurate information as to National Grid's requirements, and also some more clarity as to the logistical challenges that do or don't exist regarding going underground. So I think the bottom line is that we're glad to report back on that. Does that sound about right, Bernardo?
That's correct. Yeah, we will look into this and provide documentation to the town. And so I will follow up on that.
okay, and we'll put it back on our calendar again as quickly as we get that information in. Okay?
Before you leave, if I could ask a couple more questions. Have you signed a decommissioning agreement yet?
Not yet, but we would like to engage with the town attorney soon on that, make sure that we're meeting the conditions for the bond.
So your plan is to put a bond in place?
That's what we would propose, yes.
And how many year would that bond be for?
I think it's 15.
It's not a 1-year bond, it's a 15-year bond.
I'm
I-
not sure a bond is what's going to be acceptable to the town attorney,
I want to make
And-
sure
and
my
that is-
language is in that, is
Yes.
what I'm going.
and that's not me.
Okay,
Tim works on those decommissioning, so as soon as you can get it to Tim Protesky at my office, that would be great. I'm not sure that they've accepted bonds. I think they've only accepted money.
Yeah, my understanding from the language in the resolution of approval is that annually renewing bond would be considered by the town, and that's what we are looking to propose. But we'll submit the information to the town attorney, and we can have that discussion if it's okay.
I think the approval resolution speaks very clearly to this issue. So we will revisit it and make sure that what we submit complies with the language of that resolution.
Thank you.
okay.
Everybody set?
Thank you.
Okay, we're all set then. As soon as you can get the material to us, we'll put it back on the calendar. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Without having signed that already. I don't think they've done anything. No.
No, but they're not gonna go forward until we have the decommissioning.
But that should be part of the site, I mean, the process should be that they're done simultaneously, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You're right.
I'll send it to Tim about it, so what goes with it.
Now, we got one other matter that's not on the calendar. I just wanted to keep you folks informed. We're getting concerned about applications that are pending in front of us, that they disappear from us for long extended periods of time. We were gonna take steps to deal with 2 of them. One of them has been resolved, the sanctuary, the animal sanctuary.
Oh, yeah, wondering about that.
That has been withdrawn.
Oh, okay.
So that's no longer here. And we came to terms, town attorney advised us that we are perfectly right in sending a demand letter that they move forward on the case. We sent one out on Polly development.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
That has been sitting now in front of us for over a year. And we gave them a 60-day notice that they are either gonna move the case forward within 60 days or it is dismissed. We're not gonna have stacks of papers all over our
I
houses
agree, that's good.
when there's nothing moving.
Gem seed or something.
Working on that one too.
Okay?
I was contacted by the Hunter's Ridge Group, Holy Drive, and they would like to continue the process. So my question is, would you like them to update their submission and come back in front of the board, I guess?
That's what they need to do. We have indicated to them that the 10 lot subdivision that they're looking for is not appropriate. There's no way people can use their property. They can not put a swimming pool on their property, let alone a swing set. It's too tight. There's not enough space and we weren't gonna approve it. People can't use their property to enjoy life. So they need to come back with some other types of drawings.
Yeah, I agree.
We all okay?
I've got piles, so we haven't done anything with, we got all.
Oh, yeah, I've got a little.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in